This morning we're going to hear about free flight with Buddy Waskey. He's sponsored by the Cavalry Group. Buddy was born in North Carolina in 1961. He obtained the rank of Eagle in Boy Scouts of America and studied business at the Craven Community College in New Bern, North Carolina. Buddy has been a small business owner for over 30 years. In 1983, Buddy purchased his first pair of lovebirds and a green-winged macaw. Quite the combination. He and his family have had birds much of the time since then, with great passion for the larger macaws. Buddy's first blue-throated macaw came to live with him in 2009, and I really think that was Judy's macaw, but that's okay, at which time he began studying free flight of large parrots outside. Since then, Buddy and his family have been involved in training many large macaws for free flight outdoors. He currently owns 8 free flyers and is working with others. In 2013, Buddy started the Facebook page East Wings Free Flight Club, patterned after West Wings Free Flight Club, with the simple purpose to promote safely flying large macaws outside. East Wings Free Flight Club has been doing demonstrations for many bird clubs and groups in Virginia. My club was one of those. With YouTube and Facebook, and many others have become interested in free flight, not only in the States, but around the world. Free flight has expanded across the globe and is continuing to grow. Free flight not only improves the life and quality of the birds, it is teaching aviculturists about the development of young birds. Buddy feels that free flight will help to improve reintroduction programs in parrots in the wild. Buddy Waskey has also become a strong supporter of animal ownership rights and has joined with the American Federation of Aviculture and other groups to defend these rights. Buddy and his wife Judy are very passionate about the conservation of blue-throated macaws. Come on up, Buddy.
Thank you, Carol. Free flight, the ultimate enhancement. I'm gonna start this off giving the credits right from the start, so you don't wonder who had taken these pictures or whatever. Most of the pictures, most of the information, nearly all the pictures, is that better? That will be presented were probably stolen from others. Want to give credit to Chris Brio, Susan Hilbert, Raymond Varela at West Wings Free Flight Club, East Wings Free Flight Club. We got Wendy Martin, Keith Hirschner, Eileen Parker, Melissa Meswick. Then we have Carl Chrisman from the Cockade City Camera Club in Petersburg, Virginia. Nina McNulty, West Wings. A special thanks to the influence of Sharon Fossil, Valentina Lynn at the Costa Rican Parrot Rescue Center, and Karina Rockenheimer from the Arctic Wings Free Flight Club in Norway. This is the same disclosure here with 4 macaws and Moab flying. All right, I'm gonna give you a warning now. Free flight is addictive. There's no cure. Free flight leads to buying expensive camera equipment, often for those that don't even free fly their birds. Free flyers spend a lot of time building flights and aviaries. If the sight of your parrot or others' parrots in a tree upsets you, free flight may not be for you. This picture was by Melissa Meswick of East Wings. I'm going to go through this kind of quick, and then when we get to the end, we ask some questions. Also, there were some flights that people wanted to see his presentation that are landing or landed a few minutes ago. We might arrange to do another one of these one night or somewhere if we can get a room to do them in for a few more people. This is Mikhail. This is one of his favorite tricks. He's my bird, and will that bird come down? As soon as they hit the tree, if somebody hadn't seen birds fly, will he come down? I don't know. We call it free flight because it's kind of unstructured. This is Cosmo. If there's a magnolia tree, which we have plenty in Virginia, Cosmo's going to find it. This is not a magnolia tree, so he didn't sit there long. Understanding free flight is important to aviculture fledging and learning to fly is important to the growth and development of birds in the wild. It's important that a bird fledge at a natural age and develop the flight skills before being clipped, and it'll retain much of these skills throughout life. All right, getting started with free flight. I'm giving you the basics. Don't take my information and go out there and start free flying. If this is just the basics of it, if you're really interested in it, contact me or somebody else. There's lessons of classes available. Also, there are a lot of people to mentor. Raymond Varela mentors a lot of people, and Susan Hilder's doing it too. So if you're interested, go that route. We recommend starting with a baby in pin feathers, but this isn't a deal breaker. The older the bird starts outside, the harder it is to learn the skills needed for flight. The earlier the bird starts flying outside, or in a very large area, the quicker the better flight skills the bird has. What kind of bird is best for free flight? Some of the Facebook groups, Yahoo groups and all, we always get people calling wanting advice on how to fly free fly their parakeet or their cockatiel. They really don't make good free flight candidates. Ringnecks don't. And some of this we don't understand why they do. Cockatiels is the way they flock, kind of. They don't make good free flyers. There are some smaller birds that people are free flying successfully, but usually they do it in flocks. What we recommend is large, bright, and loud. This is a pretty girl. She's a blue-throated macaw. Right here getting ready to molt. She looks pretty rough. All right. Here I'm going to show you some different groups. We've got a lot of pictures in here. This is the Indonesian parrot lovers here. They're flying large macaws. They have some events. Here you can see some sun conures. I think there's some other conures in there, but they in free flight in Indonesia and a couple other Asian countries is really getting popular. Aviculture in general in these countries are getting popular, and they're having festivals. There's some you could find on YouTube or Facebook. They're flying 50, 75 birds at a time. And probably one of the most famous free flyers is Raymond Varela. And his truck, this is the most famous vehicle in aviculture right now, is Raymond's truck. This is Karina Rockenheimer. She came to the United States and was trained in Moab in free flight. She's been back to visit Raymond. That's the Arctic wings. These are some West Wings birds. I don't know which are which, but some of them are Raymond's. I think this is haywire right here. That's not Photoshop. This is West Wings working with a African gray here in a batting cage. This is a cockatoo. This is one of West Wing's newest birds. It's a red-fronted macaw. They started this bird out as a little bit older, but it had never been clipped. This is Forrest. On the other side of the pond, we got 7 international, Free Flight International. You can find that. They got their website. They're starting to teach lessons. They're getting classes set up in other languages. I think their goal is to get 4 or 5 languages that they can teach their free flight classes in. Right here, this is probably the this Susan Hildreth and Mark Hackett. They're probably flying more birds than anybody else right now. They're right at 30, and Susan started flying some doves. Well, she says the doves tend to sit in the trees, so in time she'll see how that goes. Macaws, sun conures, she's free flying a bouffon now, maybe 2 bouffons. Karina free flies a bouffon. Macaw, several macaws. Blue throat, rose-breasted. She's got a couple rose-breasted. Rose-breasted are super flyers. She's flying 2 major Mitchells right now. Another rose-breasted. Nina McNulty, she's in West Wing. She free flies 2 blue and golds. Emma and Oda. Dana McDonald, she's free flying 2 red fronts. She's in, I believe, Washington State. Richard Harris is in Utah. I guess now right at 5 years he's been free flying. We've got a hybrid here. That's a Harlequin blue throat, and then he free flies a hyacinth too. Richard is envied for his aviary. He's got a 30 by 50 foot aviary that these birds live in year round outside, and he lets them out, flies them every day. Richard has got some really good pictures. He hadn't been taking as many as he used to. Richard and Raymond Varela. Valentina Lynn, she was mentored by Raymond Varela. She's from the Parrot Rescue of Costa Rica. She started out with 1 young scarlet macaw, I guess about 3 years ago. The game department or whatever in Costa Rica brings her birds and she rehabs them, and the goal is to release them. They brought her 2 more scarlet macaws, and she works with some yellow napes and some other native species there. But her 3 scarlets are at liberty most of the day. They come in at night. Rango, her oldest one, may come home, may not. He sleeps in the jungle a lot of times. But they fly at liberty. Now, I want to make a little bit of a difference here. Flying at liberty and free flight is two different things. If Valentina took her birds to another location, she might have problems because the birds are pretty much always flown right there. This is another picture of her 3 scarlets. Kim Strong, a.k.a. Ara M. Amor. She got 2 baby green wings a couple years ago from Raymond Varela. She's got an awesome aviary. I believe she's in Oklahoma. These birds are at liberty much of the day. They come in. She puts them in an aviary or a house with the other birds. And these birds being out several hours a day, they're just super flyers. You can see part of her aviary over here. Here's her green wings, Kim's green wings there. And all right, getting started, free flying. Everybody asks about, well, do you start out in a gym or whatever? My first birds I started out right in my house, in my living room. You start out with a perch. The perch is pretty important. We're using a tripod here like a surveyor has with a perch on it. And when the birds first start out there, they become familiar with the perch. So the perch that you use to train them inside, you need to be able to take it outside. And they get familiar with it. You change perches up on a young bird, they might sit in a tree or even fly off. They're funny about where they land. Right here, this is a Gimpy and a Hopper. Right, we started them out some flying right here on this perch, but right, you can obviously tell here that they're just learning to perch. So they're, I guess, about 10 weeks old here. Y'all know I'm politically involved. I believe in the government taking care of our money and utilizing facilities right here. This is a old Army barrack at Fort Pickett, Virginia, and we use it now sometimes taking these young birds and do recall training. This is Sharon Fossil here. She this is actually a warehouse that she gets to use. It's an Army barrack, 2-story Army barrack, and we use what probably the greatest benefit to us using this East Wings is showing people how to target train and how to get the bird flying back and forth to the perch for recall training. This is probably Snuggles, my first free flyer in here. Blue-throated macaw in a warehouse. This is Gimpy eating a grape, and Gimpy flies now some, but sometimes he gets easily distracted. When you're starting off with a young bird and recall training them, it's real important they get outside exposure. This is one of my outside flights or aviaries here. It's a car for it, and we put wire on the outside of it and put the birds out there young as we can. When you feel like you can safely leave them alone out there, that they're perching well enough. It's important that somehow the birds get socialized. They understand about being outside. When people lose a lot of pet birds, I think a lot of it is just the bird ends up outside and they're shocked with the sights, the sounds, the sunlight, and so we put the birds in there. Now my 6 main free flyers are in this just about all the daylight hours in here, and one, they need the exposure. 2, they need the space. Your free flyers don't do well when you put them in a house and put them back in a single macaw cage. Most of my free flyers, when they do go inside, they're in a double macaw cage. They'll flap their wings. We've had a couple of them in the wintertime that spent a lot of time inside, that they would flap their wings to the point that they looked like they had been clipped. Here's some more views. I got a safety cage on this aviary. This is Susan Hilder and Mark Hackett's one of their aviaries, and you see they got cages around it. They can do training in here and let the birds out. They'll let several birds out. When you start putting a bunch of birds in here, especially when you're older like this, then it comes into managing the birds, because birds tend to hurt each other. So it's something you really got to watch. And Susan also has some smaller aviaries and flights around, but this is real nice for them to train in. When you got an aviary this size, the birds start developing flight skills a lot better in here than they do in a smaller aviary or in the house. Here's some more pictures of Susan outside of aviary. This aviary is in Washington, and she's got a place in Moab too. This is some of our first free flyers at East Wings. Here they are, just starting to perch good, Mikhail and Sweetie and Cosmo. All 3 of these. This picture was taken about 2 years ago. They're super flyers. This is another idea outside. This is just a corner cage or king's cage that we have on the porch, and we put some birds in that. Right here are 2 blue throats. These blue throats are about 8 years old and been clipped all their life, and we put them in this cage out here. We got some larger flights. They go in with some other blue throats, and in time, we're hoping that maybe they get some desire to fly, but right now they don't fly at all, being they were clipped. This is my wife, Judy. She supervises the whole thing here. In socializing birds for free flight, when we say socializing, that's getting them used to stuff. Your birds that you're bringing up for free flight, we don't usually socialize them, getting them to know other people as much because we don't want them flying to strangers. This is Cosmo. Right here, this is before he started flying outside, and we just take the young birds with us when we free fly, so they get exposure, get used to vehicle traveling, sights and sounds, going to different places. This is Snuggles up here playing on a perch, and we got Hopper and Gimpy in there. This Hopper and Gimpy, when they were real young, I just put them in this little crate here, and they went to the park for a little while. That was their first time out. This is my basic setup that I use. I got a bed slide in the back of my pickup, and 4 of these crates that fit in the back of the truck. I have a perch that I'm going to put up there. I got the perch that you saw earlier on a tripod, plus I got some other perches that stick in the ground that I use. Free flyers do this different ways. You saw the way Raymond does his. It just makes it easier. These carriers, unless I need the truck for work, stay in the truck, and I just back up to the aviary and load the birds up, and off we go. You see peanuts there. That's unsalted peanuts. That's what we use for treats most of the time. Unshelled, unsalted peanuts. The water bottles there. We keep some water bowls around, especially this time of year, and some bottles of water in case they get hot. Outside locations. We start the birds out their first flights. We take them to a very open area. That's why you hear so much about free flying in Moab. There are places out there where it's just about a mile before you get into any distractions. This is at Fort Pickett Air Base in Blackstone, Virginia. Fort Pickett is a unique situation. It's the actual base here is owned by the actual airport's owned by the federal government. There's an area there that's owned by the city of Blackstone, by the county of Nottoway, and then the state of Virginia has a National Guard there. So it's about 40 or 50,000 acres of space there, but we're able to use the airport. They're getting busier and busier. Used to, we just showed up, and now we have to make an appointment. This works out real good starting the birds out. You can see another view right here of a bird. They have to go about a quarter of a mile to get to the trees, and with the exception of Hopper, on their maiden voyage, all of them circled back or landed to the ground. Hopper took her first flight. She flew around the airfield about 3 times and then ended up in one of the trees. Here we are using the perch outside, just practicing recall training. I'm going to bring out some concerns of free flight. Number one concern I hear of free flight people that don't free fly. I can't free fly my birds because of raptors. Raptors with inexperienced flyers do create a problem. It scares the birds off, but it's not only raptors, vultures, crows. In the springtime, crows will torment the parrots, and when they get scared, usually they just go to their first tree line they get to and stop. Number 2 concern, people that don't free fly, they're afraid the bird won't come back. Usually the bird doesn't go much further than the tree line, and birds that hang out in the trees, when we free fly them, we found out that it's lack of skills, lack of condition. You got to keep your birds in condition, get them in condition. Birds get a little bit scared. they'll sit in a tree. I've got a couple birds right now that, not all strangers, but every now and then there's a person that comes up that, I got a friend that's real tall. He's probably about 6'4", close to 300 pounds. My birds don't care for him much. And what'll happen is, if he's around, they'll fly a lot, and usually they'll sit in a tree, and then I'll tell him it's time to go home, and as soon as he leaves, the birds come down. So if there's somebody odd around, the birds, or something that distracts them, the birds will sit in a tree. Also, lack of recall training, a bird will sit in a tree. Okay, concerns of an experienced free flyer. These are my concerns. That's two of the concerns I hear the most from people that aren't free flying. My concern, biggest problem I've had with free flight is a drone. So if flying at Fort Pickett, North Carolina National Guard, fired off a drone. We had 10 birds on the back of the truck. 5 flew off. 1 returned instantly. Spent the rest of the day recovering 3 of them. And the 5th bird, 3 days later, we found him exactly where we saw him last. So that was Schaller, and Schaller had landed in the trees and hadn't gone but a couple hundred yards from where we thought we had last seen him, and he was really scared. And his name is Schaller for a reason. My wife named him Schaller when he was about 8 weeks old because he's kind of shy. And we got to be careful with Schaller because it doesn't take much to scare him off. But you hear about drones, you think it's something small, but this one right here was probably 15 feet. That's a launch. They launch it off of there. My second concern, or experienced flyers' second concern, kites. We've had an incident with this. This isn't a regular kite like a kid would fly. This kite here is got about a 10-foot wingspan. We were at a park flying one day, and a guy pulled 2 of these out of the truck. And anyway, our 2 best flyers flew off. I knew where they were. It took them about 45 minutes to calm down and come back. But airplanes, helicopters, they seem to get used to pretty quick. But the lower flying stuff like this, it really scares them. Third concern of as a free flyer, dogs. Birds, when they're first starting out flying, they'll land anywhere. And I've learned to pick my neighborhoods, my park, or wherever I'm a free fly, because some neighborhoods, older neighborhoods, they got all their yards are fenced in, and most of the people have a dog, and I got a real fear of a young bird ending up in somebody's backyard with dogs. So this is Stella, my wife's dog. It was mine for about a week or 2. Fourth concern of free flyers, traffic. The birds, it's very funny as they get more experience, they gain their skills and condition, they learn about cars. And when I go fly at a new place, if there's a road nearby, I'll take the birds and walk up and down the road. It's got to be the silliest looking thing you've ever seen, with me with a macaw in each hand walking up and down the road. And I'll intentionally wait till a noisy vehicle or a semi comes by so they can see it. Then we go back to our rally point where we're flying. But traffic's a concern. Young birds, they'll fly around the corner of a house or a group of trees or something and dive down and end up in the road. But this is something they very quickly, with a lot of outside time and all, they very quickly learn to avoid roads. I got 2 of them that will fly at a high school, and the school's got a road run between its football field on one side and baseball fields on the other, and buildings on both sides. And I got 2 birds that'll actually fly down the street about a quarter mile in each direction, about 20 to 50 feet up in the air. And I guess I need some insurance for that or something, because sooner or later they're going to cause a wreck. Fifth concern, raptors. When I say raptors, also you can put in there, crows, geese, buzzards. And the concern is not what the average person thinks. I'm not concerned about this hawk attacking my bird, because they will fly at the large macaws, but they usually what'll happen is the macaw and the hawk or falcon will fly in different directions, and every now and then you'll get a hawk that'll follow the macaw. We got a couple macaws that will follow the hawk. Sweetie, she has actually hit a hawk and knocked feathers out of him, so we had the opposite results of what the average person would think. But with a young bird, other birds, they get scared, and I even had an incident this summer with we call them in the South mockingbirds, or catbirds. Were chasing after an inexperienced flyer, and he would just fly higher and higher and go in circles. And when he first started doing it, I didn't know what was going on with the bird, and that was gimpy. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, he flew by me flying in circles, and I could see the catbird behind him about 20 feet. Well, the more experienced birds would have ignored the catbird or turned around and chased it. But when this happens, that's when you end up a lot of time with a bird in a tree. And if the bird does fly off, seldom do they fly much further than the closest tree line. All right, here again we had effective use of government facilities. We're back at Fort Pickett. It's a very open area, and we go there when we start out new birds, or we're trying to get birds back into condition. Even an experienced bird, getting them in condition, if you fly them in a small park with a lot of trees, they'll just fly a little bit and sit in the tree. It's really important to keep them in condition. This is a Buffon macaw, Karina Rockenheimer's, and she just started flying him a few months ago. And I think here he's been flying about a month, and he dive bombs out of the trees. We've had a couple of them that would do that. This is Karina right here. I think she's flying 5 birds right now. Raymond Varela is flying. Here's Karina. This is an awesome picture. Raymond Varela's flying 5 birds. On the left, that's two of the West Wing birds, and then you got Nina here. This is the most famous hat in free flight, Nina's. Here you got Nina, got both of her birds coming in. One will land on each hand, and if you see it in time, you got two of your birds coming at you. It's catch one in each hand. When you got 3 coming at you, you catch one in the head or shoulders. There's a West Wing picture over here. Both these are West Wing pictures. Here's Nina's birds here. You see some different perches there. These are West Wing birds, Nina's birds flying over sunflowers field. Anybody familiar with Raymond Varela's pictures? Some of his best ones are the scarlets and the green wings flying over these sunflower fields. This is Cosmo and Mikhail flying. They were actually flying in Old Town Petersburg when this was taken. This is Mikhail. Mikhail again. Mikhail right here. This is Cosmo. I just sent him out to fly there. This is Pocahontas Island, very historic island right there in the city of Petersburg. There's the perch being used outside. Cosmo, now that he's been flying outside for getting close to 2 years, he'll come to the perch sometime. A lot of times he wants to land on me and get another peanut, or he'll land literally on top of the pickup truck on a camper shell. This picture here we call 5 in the air. Y'all don't count well, I guess. You don't see the 5th bird. The 5th bird is Hopper. Hopper was flying the other direction. Hopper's is a green wing, and she had a mind of her own. Yeah. This is Harris's birds. Richard's birds here. 3 birds on a perch. And there's 3 birds in the air. That's Trisha, Richard's wife, with the birds. Richard in Moab. Richard lives in, I think, outside of Provo, Salt Lake. I think you might be seeing what I mean, warning you about free flight and camera equipment, because you start getting some pictures like this and it gets kind of addictive. Right here, when birds get together and fly other birds, a lot of times, or most of the time, they'll fly together and they don't know each other well. Birds that don't get along, they'll fly and do pretty good. But these are, this is Boomer, Buckles, Marley, Chaka, and then I think that's 2 of Susan's birds and 2 of Richard's birds. Here's one of Raymond's pictures in the sunflowers. This is a subdivision that just started getting developed. They fly there a lot. Raymond uses his bike. I need to get another bike. I've used a bike too. Believe it or not, you got to condition the birds with a bike. When I was using one before, I left the bike parked beside the aviary outside, so the birds got used to it. And then when you start going out and free flying with them on a bike, they're not scared of it. But the birds will follow you on the bike, and it's real good to get them in condition that way. Here's some pictures of Raymond. Not a lot of pictures of Raymond, because Raymond most of the time taking the pictures himself. And Raymond's pictures as Nina again. That looks chaotic there a little bit, but Raymond's in control. That's the east wing picture. That's one of our better pictures. Sweetie and Mikhail there. We were flying at the airport. In the background is a plant there. In summary, free flight is great for the birds. Successful free flight is a lifestyle for the birds and their owners. If you're going to free fly to have birds do well, you need to understand that they need to learn their flight skills, and you got to keep them in condition. This is not something that you can go out and let the birds out once a month and fly and really be successful. My goal is to free fly every day. When all's said and done, I'll probably go out 200 days out of the year with the birds flying. Now, there are other things that make this different. You got a big aviary. When I say big, I'm talking about 50 to 100 feet aviary. That'll help keep the birds in condition some, but the more you fly them, the better flyers they get, the less time they'll spend in trees, less time you'll spend looking for birds. But all right. Anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to present to you there. I look at free flight as a healthier, better lifestyle for your birds. Also, I noticed free flight's not for everybody, but as aviculturists, we need to get our birds outside in bigger cages, spend more time outside. A single macaw cage is just really not a lot of space for macaw. Most of mine, like I say, go outside every day unless it's bitterly cold, and then we try to free fly every day, but with weather and work and stuff, it doesn't end up every day. Our goal is to go every day. All right, got time for questions here. Mary Ellen? Everybody is the question was from Mary Ellen was what command do you use? Everybody's got different commands. My command, I use about 3. One of them is verbal command, call the bird by name, say come here. Also, for my birds is come here. And then sometimes I have something in my hand, I'll do this. So my more experienced birds know what that means. The birds that are really food motivated, when I give them the command outside their recall, it's usually probably 90-95%. Carol?
When you first start out, do you not feed them before you take them out and then entice them to come back to you with treats?
It depends on the bird. Some of the younger birds are not really food motivated, but you know, when you got a bird that's 3, 4, 5 months old, a lot of them will want to just come to you because they look at you as mama or daddy or whatever. But the ones that are food motivated, we don't use weight management. We'll manage their food. If I'm flying in the afternoon, I'll give them something for breakfast. And when they get through eating the birds that I'm going to fly, I'll pull the food out of the aviary. And then that afternoon, I'll fly them at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So in other words, they're eating breakfast and then we're flying them. When we get back, they pretty much learned that when they get back, they're going back in the aviary for a while and they're going to get all they want to eat then. But whenever you're training a bird, you need to, if you're using food, you don't train them right after you fed them. You train them before you feed them. You get their attention a little bit better. You know, that helps. But after you gain the experience and condition, it you know, usually you don't have a problem when I'm coming back. I don't like dwelling on it because it's not a good example. Hopper, the green wing that y'all saw in there, we flew Hopper for nearly a year with no recall. And Hopper would just fly with the other birds and come back to the truck. And then we started working with Hopper on recall. Hopper being a green wing, she spent a lot of time on the ground. And after we got her recall pretty good and all, she landed on the perch in the truck a lot better. Going on the ground didn't bother me except for if we were flying in a area where there are possible dogs or something like that. How long do they fly? It varies. With all the trees on the East Coast and all, 3 to 5 minutes good for airs. When you get on the West Coast, Raymond had an incident recently. He had 2 birds stay in the air for over an hour and a half.
When you first start out, I'm just thinking of the first time a bird would go to a tree and you don't know where it is, like panic. So how much training do you do before you get to that point to successfully feel like you can get your bird back?
The bird learning to fly and gaining the skills and being in condition is really important. The recall training, usually it's about a month. If we have the birds start out at optimum age, we get in pin feathers. Usually when they fledge the first time, those of you that don't clip your birds and hand feed, you know what I'm talking about. They'll usually land on top of your head or your kitchen counter or wherever, but they're going to come in your direction. We work with them inside usually about a month with the macaws. Some of the others are quicker. Those that are flying sun conures in flocks, everything happens a lot quicker. Robin?
So is it conditional on what your, like if you start seeing ladies leave your
When you have a bird that sits in a tree, the first thing you look at is recall. So we'll take them back and start working with them inside, maybe in the warehouse, in the aviary, get the other birds away and work with them on recall. That's the first thing you look at. We've had one, I mentioned Shiler, that we had a 3-day recovery with Shiler. There's been other incidences since that was Shiler, and that name is very appropriate. We've consulted with Raymond and others on it. Shiler had some feathers missing in the center of the wing, and we're waiting on one more feather to go back in to work with them. But you have to look at a lot of things, but I can't stress enough that birds have to learn, being good condition, they have to develop the skills to make this successful. The birds that hang out in the tree, and there's exceptions to all of it, are usually the ones that are not in condition. My 2 blue throats hadn't flown much recently. My male blue throat snuggles, I can't fly him with other birds. For some reason, they're all a threat to him. And him being 6 or 7 years old, it's probably some hormonal issues there. But when I take him out, he goes and sits in the tree. And after a few days, I can get him in condition. Getting him back in condition, you'll see a progress just about every day, and it happens real quick. This spring, the first 2 days I flew, the birds would fly out in a circle about 50 feet and come back, and I'm like, man, we got to do something. After about the 3rd or 4th day, they started flying more. How you get them out of the tree? You wait it out. And sometimes I'm learning more and more to look. There's some distraction. And I fly at a lot of parks. I live on a busy road in a small town just south of Richmond. And so I end up at a lot of parks. And I found out that it's something different. I had an incident recently, and it was a guy that was dressed different. He was tall and skinny, and the birds just didn't like him there. And actually, Mikhail came back just after hanging out in a tree. He came back after 30, 45 minutes. Cosmo came back the next morning. I drove up the next morning, and before I could get out of the truck, Cosmo was flying to the truck. So you'll have sleepovers, often are free flight, but seldom does a bird ever leave the tree. And usually you just take off where you were the night before. You're refreshed. You've got some rest. People talking about I'd sleep under the tree and all. Nope. As soon as the sun's been down about 15 minutes, I go home and I start rescheduling things for the next day. And when I say rescheduling things, a lot of time, my work obligations, I'll tell everybody, hey, I might not be available in the morning. And usually you go back, the bird comes down. But by then, a lot of them don't sleep well. It's 12 hours later, they're hungry, or they'll come back. Carol. The question was, do I see any difference in the weight? No, you got heavy birds and light birds and all, and there's a range there. But I do, with a free flyer, when you pick them up, they're always heavier than you think they are, and that's probably what you were kind of asking. There's more muscle there. We got a couple big blue and golds that we don't fly. They're older, probably never will fly. Perch potatoes, and they're humongous. And you pick them up, and you think, well, this is their biggest macaw. And then you pick up some of the flyers, and they're not as big, but they weigh just as much. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like with conditioning and with any animal. Yes. I do both, and most of the time I do both. I'll call the bird or say, come here, call them by name. I got some of them that will be in flight, and I can call them, and they'll change directions and come back. And I usually do both of them, because maybe they did hear me, maybe they didn't. Also, if they're real far away, it's a better chance of them seeing them. Now, there's something else that I didn't bring up here. I use a storm whistle, which is supposedly the loudest whistle in the world. I blow the whistle not for recall. Some people use them for recall. I do it as a contact call. When I'm in recovery or had a bird fly off, I can blow the whistle sometimes, and the bird will hear it and they'll call back. And yeah. And so when we've had a sleepover, you come back in the morning. If I don't get there before the sun comes up, often the birds moved in the morning. And so I just go through the neighborhood blowing a whistle. And when we're recovering the bird, seldom do you recover the bird from a vehicle. You got to be out walking, riding a bicycle. Raymond uses a bike a lot, and all. And I've recovered them on foot. My wife in her vehicle now, she's found the birds in hers, but she drives a little Ford Escape that's real quiet. But engine noise of our vehicles is also a contact call. They're used to us coming home. I drive a diesel truck, they'll hear that. But the problem is when I'm riding around, they'll hear that. They might hear me blowing the whistle, but I don't hear them. And my wife and son have found birds a couple times in her little Escape because they could hear them call back. Yes.
How many birds do you know of that have been killed by other falcons?
Okay. I'm careful the way I say this, okay? In the U.S. and the free flyers, I know of no incident of a large, properly trained macaw being injured or killed by a raptor.
So before they get properly trained.
I've heard of lots of incidents, people having them on harnesses. I call a harness lunch on a rope. And, and people that got outside birds have problems with them, but the birds in an aviary, if you got a bird that hangs on the side of an aviary, especially, a small or medium-sized bird, they have a lot of problems. But the real problem we have with raptors, we have the same problem with geese and crows and vultures, is it scares the young bird, the inexperienced bird. And after they get experience, they all handle it differently. Like I said, we got one sweetie that'll actually chase them, but a lot of them just ignore them. But I put the different concerns up there. It is always a concern, and it's going to be an exception to it sometime, but they're just not attacking these large macaws and the cockatoos. Yeah, and the people that are being most successful with the smaller birds are flying them in flocks. Conyers. Robin? Yeah. Yeah. One of my goals from this talk is for you to understand training is very important, but the bird learning to fly in those first few months is even more important. And I'll go a step further, even if you're not going to fly them outside. I think the bird fledging and not being clipped till it's close to a year old is real important. I am scared in my aviary, more fear of a raptor, because I got a couple macaws that hang on the edge and blue throats and all, of being hit then. And that's where you need double wire. And also I've talked to some breeders that lost some birds in aviaries, and I think a lot of the birds that are lost in aviaries by raptors, or they're lost and you never know what happened to them, is the bird gets scared and instinctively flies the other direction. And being as that bird's always been in an aviary, it doesn't have a whole lot of flight skills, and it kills itself when it hits the other side of the aviary. that happens with my flighted birds, but usually they'll start flying instinctively, and they'll catch what's going on. They'll land on the side of the wire and be fine, or they'll fly and land on a perch in the aviary when they're startled. So in other words, people that got outside birds and aviaries, they just get scared. The same thing could happen with a dog barking or somebody strange coming up. Yeah, well, with bald, we got a lot of bald eagles where we are. A lot of osprey. I'm on bash air national symbol, the eagle. Eagles eat fish and usually carrion. They will scare the birds, and usually they're real high. They'll scare the birds. Osprey will, but the eagles and the osprey pay less attention to the birds than anything else. Sometimes a vulture or even fly over the birds and will be interested in the parrot, but and crows are always interested in everything. Yeah. And it might, but if I was careful how I made my statement there a minute ago, if that bird had been fledged as a natural age, been properly trained and all, it was less likely that would have happened, because the bird, to start with, the bird would have known that the raptor was around before you did, and they're observant. They watch this, and I see it in my birds sometimes, and they'll turn. You've seen it. They turn their head a little bit different and all. And then I've had a couple birds do it before, and I put them all back in the carriers and say, "What's going on?" Yeah. I knew somebody that worked at a landfill, and their landfills on the East Coast. They're run and controlled by seagulls, and guy was telling me that the eagle would sit in the tree line at the dump and would pick out certain seagulls, the weakest, the youngest, the smallest, or whatever, and the eagle would go get this seagull. And I don't think the eagle could have gotten most of the seagulls. They're just picking them out and getting them. But that, too, is something they've learned from the environment. How are we doing on time? I'm over. Everybody's always over. Y'all get in touch with me later. I was careful how I put the east wings, west wings, Arctic rings, hookbill aviary up there. All of those are the Facebook pages, so you can see pictures. And they're just lots and lots of pictures, especially west wings. Arctic wings is starting to get some good ones. If you've got questions, contact me. I'm on Facebook. You can contact me through East Wings. You can get me here. If anybody, we might do this again in a small setting somewhere tonight or tomorrow. If you're interested, let me know, because I know there was some people flying in that wanted to see this. Let me know. We'll go over it. Thank you.
have every picture taken alive. He's ignoring you, Carol.